Again, high anticipation meets reality, and it's not a happy story. Hello everyone, and welcome to Dutch Greybeard. On April 16, I started reading The Dragonbone Chair by Tad Williams, together with my good friend BJ Minton. This is our 7th buddy read. So far it has been hit and miss for us, but on the whole, I am more positive about the books we read than BJ is. And this time is no exception, even though I am by no means a fan. But before going into the nitty-gritty of this reading experience, I want to say a few words about the influence our personal circumstances can have on our reading. First of all, the other recently read books. Before I started with the Dragonbone Chair, I had been immersed in the 2 books in Rothfuss's Kingkiller Chronicles. The Name of the Wind scored the full 100 points out of 100, and The Wise Man's Fear only 1 miserly point less. So yes, these were books that I had enjoyed exceptionally well. It is a virtually impossible task for any book to follow in those footsteps. Second, my personal circumstances took a full 180 when I decided to sell my house and go live in an RV. I have told about this in the video where I unhaul more than 1,300 of my books, another activity that really interfered with my reading focus. For those of you who are interested, the house is not yet sold and my RV is not yet bought, so this will take a couple of months. And third, because of that decision, a long dormant wish came back to life, to finally work on writing my own story. I have an idea that needs developing and writing, but that I had put on hold because of other obligations. Now, with this newfound freedom ahead of me, this story really pushes against long closed doors in my head to gain a front row seat. All of this, on top of the usual hubbub of life, plays a part in my reading experience. No doubt my concentration was challenged while reading, and in hindsight, a book as slow-paced as The Dragonbone Chair may not have been the best choice. BJ and I both struggled with the slowness of the narration, the overload of details, characters with impossible names, places, political landscape, and history. Regarding the names, BJ wrote, "The words look like someone sat on the keyboard," and "keeping the gobbledygook of characters straight is simply too much work." The writer does give the reader snippets of more to come, like when Dr. Morjeans says things to Simon like, "You have gifts you know nothing about yet, young hawk." And when Simon keeps nagging about wanting to learn magic, the doctor says, "You simply do not comprehend what you are asking." He explains about the natural laws and how difficult they are to understand. "But why won't you teach me the laws?" For the same reason I wouldn't give a burning torch to an infant sitting on a pile of straw. That's a strong sequence. But the first 10 chapters are not really exemplary of drawing a reader into a book. There are way too many names, details, characters, and strange language that mainly confuse the reader. By now, having read some fantasy, I know that I don't have to pay attention to every detail when I'm overdosed with world building. Still, I wonder if it has any real purpose to do this, other than feeding on the illusion of how rich this fantasy world is. From the start, I eagerly leaned into the trope of the kitchen boy with the vague background, who no doubt is destined for greatness. I loved, for instance, how Simon finds a bird's nest out of season, or when he climbs the mysterious Green Angel Tower, and with a clear antagonist in the creepy priest, Pirates in the mix, all seemed well. At the beginning, say the first 50 or so pages, I really thought I had another fantasy jewel in my hands. Unfortunately, that feeling didn't last very long. Gradually, Simon got on my nerves. He is easily frustrated, not very bright, has no skills that we know of, and is in truth nothing more than a scullery. There is not very much to like about him, and the greatness up ahead gets adequately pushed away by his stupidity. The same thing goes for Dr. Morgenes. His interest in and patience with Simon is obviously rooted in something we don't know yet, but he's not a very likable character as well. And the prose of Tad Williams does not really impress me that much. Of course, we have to keep in mind that this book was published in 1988. It's not bad prose, but it is bland most of the time and very safe. I also didn't appreciate it to read archaic words like athwart in "a sword lay athwart his lap." I've come across that word twice, I believe. Another downside in Williams's prose are his metaphors. Most of them I find weak, strange, or confusing, especially if I compare these to the brilliance of Rothfuss in that regard. They detract more than they improve the reading experience. Just a few examples of what I mean. Simon listens to monks singing their prayers. Each note so carefully held and then lovingly released, like a woodcarver putting delicate toy boats into a stream. To me, this is confusing instead of clarifying, because the portrayed image has nothing to do with sound, and the woodcarver adds nothing to this image, but distracts really. Somewhere else the writer describes how bees hurry among slopes filled with dandelions and marigolds, nipping from flower to flower like little doctors, discovering, much to their surprise, all their patients getting well at the same time. Even now, to the best of my abilities, I cannot imagine what those doctors should look like. And it really misses the mark because the metaphor implies some sort of expression on the doctors' faces, at least I assume it does, which does not relate to bees, whose expressions, if they have any, we humans cannot see. His head was pounding like Reuben the Bear's anvil during tournament time. Like whose anvil during what? Read it again. At this point I have forgotten who Reuben the Bear was again, but apparently he was the blacksmith, and during a tournament a lot of swords need work on his anvil. Way too complicated, and not enlightening in the least. I spend this much time on this issue because to me metaphors can truly enrich prose, and can visualize something that happens in the story. But with most of the metaphors in the Dragonbone Chair, I scratch my head, wondering what on earth the writer is trying to make me see or feel with his comparisons. Another thing that didn't really contribute to an amazing reading experience is that the author categorically slows down the story. Every time when the train of the story finally starts rolling, we are treated to another chapter with new POVs and new characters, or side characters that we have seen 300 pages earlier and who apparently have to do or say something that seems totally irrelevant. We are taken out of the story time and again, like you're in a car that pulls up and slows down all the time. A couple of times I wrote down in the margins something like, "Yes, it seems like the story really takes off here," only to be pulled off that horse in the next chapter again. Most of the slowness and almost tediousness comes forth from what I experienced as needless elaboration. I will give you one example without spoiling anything. Some 150 pages from the end of the book, Simon and his party are attacked. With the help of a third party, they survive, but the newcomers take Simon and his mates prisoner. The author needs 7 pages to describe their small walk from where they were attacked to the underground shelter of their saviors. That, to me, is at least 6 pages too long, because those pages bring me nothing but words, meaningless words that contribute nothing to the story. Truly, the only interesting stuff during that walk could have been captured in half, perhaps one whole page. I have nothing against descriptive prose or long-winded journeying, only when it gives me something, like the feel of the mood of the characters, anything about the landscape, or a meaningful or funny dialogue. In the Dragonbone Chair, most, if not all, the elaborate descriptions are redundant and could have been shorter or eliminated. But that is me talking, of course, and in the end, the author or the publisher and editors decide the final word count of a novel, as it should be. I am just one of the many consumers, and many others have voiced their appreciation for what I dislike. It's like BJ stated, more and more words does not equate to a better book. It's typical how few underlinings I have made and only an occasional scribble in the margins. But of course, one cannot finish reading an almost 800-page book without liking some of it. There is absolutely some beautiful prose in those pages, and even though the story progresses extremely slow most of the time, it is interesting enough to keep on going, for me at least. As I mentioned to BJ, funny enough, I don't have very much to say about the book. It is obviously a classic and epic fantasy in the Tolkien tradition. It is slowly but surely reeling me in, but I cannot say that I'm a fan. A very nice part is where Dr. Morjeans compares books with traps. A piece of writing is a trap, and the best kind. A book, you see, is the only kind of trap that keeps its captive, which is knowledge, alive forever. The more books you have, the doctor waved an all-encompassing hand about the room, the more traps, then the better chance of capturing some particular elusive shining beast, one that might otherwise die unseen. The rather dim-witted Simon has trouble understanding. Following the doctor's words was like trying to catch mice while wearing mittens. One of the few really good metaphors. Another example of truly well cared for prose. Neither war nor violent death have anything uplifting about them, yet they are the candle to which humanity flies again and again as complacently as the lowly moth. That is just a beautiful and meticulously crafted sentence with a lot of truth in it. And one more example of the sparse moments of beauty. When Simon says goodbye to the lady he silently has a crush on. After her parting words, he stands holding the scarf she gave him and thinking of her smile when she had kissed his cheek. He felt something smolder into flame inside of him. It seemed in some way he did not fully understand that a single torch had been lit against the vast grey chill looming in the north. It was only a single point of brightness in a dreadful storm. But even a lone fire could bring a traveller home safe. That final line really delivers the punch here. The only character I really felt passionate about is Binabik, with his peculiar and elaborate way of talking. I am full of terrible hunger. There are funny moments, and now and then the author indulges himself an inside joke, like when one of the characters warns the others. We cannot, any of us, afford the luxury of thinking this a fantasy. Finally, around the 550-page mark, we get some insight into what the story is actually about. We now have some idea of Simon's quest and of the larger stakes at play, although much remains shrouded in mist. In the end, BJ only liked Binabik and his animal companion, the wolf Kantaka or Kantaka. To me, I also liked Binabik the most, although I couldn't care less about the wolf. Another intriguing character for me is Jellaway. I would love to hear more about her. It is safe to say that this book, and subsequently its author, will not be one of my favorites. I am liking it, and perhaps my personal situation at the time I read it are a bit unfair to the book. After Rothfuss, and together with my huge book on haul and ditto life changes in the making, the Dragonbone Chair had stiff competition for my undivided attention. I believe this is one of my slowest reads ever. Possibly I would have breezed through this book had I not been otherwise preoccupied. We will never know. Like BJ, I can understand the love many people have for this book and the series. Speaking for myself, I find it very hard to love this book, even though I want to. There are many beautiful passages and impressive scenes, but on the whole, the book is too slow-paced. It is crowded with too many characters, of which many seem completely irrelevant to the story, and the prose is chewy. I like the story, but I found that it was clumsily told at times. Hardly any of the characters have my sympathy. I have lived inside this book for about 3 weeks, and its smells, furniture and sounds have become familiar, but I still don't really feel at home. My rating won't go any higher than 72 points out of 100. This disappointment does not mean I will not continue with the series. Even though I've heard similar things about Stoner Farewell regarding the slowness, practically all booktubers say that the final huge book, To Green Angel Tower, absolutely is worth undertaking the entire trip. So I will. I cannot say when I will pick up the second book. I've seen that it has a synopsis of the first book, so I don't have to rush things while Dragonbone Chair is still fresh in my head. But who knows? I might just start reading it next week. In any case, you will hear about it. Thank you very much for watching this video. Until we meet again at Dutch Greybeard.